listening to a Bored to Death Mandocast, talking all things Star Wars in easily digestible chunks.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and other assorted gender assignations. Welcome back to the Bored to Death Mandocast.
Where life finds a way.
Yes, I am Jay, being joined by
Zeke,
Chris,
and
Rude.
Yep, Rode is back to join us for the conclusion of the Bad Batch. We are a few weeks behind.
Five.
Actually, closer to 5. We are going to have to talk about the previous couple of episodes that we have watched, but we are catching up. We will be watching episode 14, 15, and 16 tonight. I say tonight, but we will also talk about episodes 12 and 13, Rescue on Ryloth and Infested, just to sort of cover our bases a bit before we conclude the show. And the Bingecat is playing again.
The Bingecat entered the hole that should not be entered, rolled around,
Yep.
and that was all that noise you just heard.
Yep, cats like to do cat things. But yeah, Bad Batch has been very, very good.
That batch was beyond better than I thought it was going to be.
you geeked out so hard when Chopper showed up.
Oh yeah, I was so happy for Chopper.
But the thing is that you didn't recognize him immediately.
I was like, wait, is that? And then it wasn't until the whop 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 whop.
That's when I was like, yeah, that's Chopper.
Oh yeah.
And finally realized that this is a second version of Chopper. There was a first version of Chopper
Technically,
as well.
Technically, this was the first version of Chopper.
Well, now in the last episode of the
Clone Wars?
Clone Wars, one of the astromechs was the very first version of Chopper.
Well, yeah, like
Okay.
if you look at Chopper, you kind of look at him like, are you made out of spare parts, buddy?
Yeah,
Answer, yes.
He's been put back together. So second version of Chopper is the put back together version of the one that was actually did make it out of the crash, but was so badly damaged and was just put back together.
Yeah. But where we left off with the Mandocast, we had watched Devil's Deal, where we first, when we came to Ryloth, met a young Hera Syndulla and Chopper, and the Bad Batch were sort of only briefly there as they dropped off weapon supplies for the Twi'lek rebels, or resistance, I should say.
Resistance.
And then because they are French, so they are la resistance.
Just with funny headpieces. Wait, that's what they had back then.
Yes.
Funny headpieces. Holy crap, they really are French.
But episode 12, Rescue on Ryloth, sort of picked up where the previous episode had left off, with Hera's parents having been captured by the Empire, with plans on making an example of them, sort of thing, and Hera escaping. And in episode 12, she reaches out to the Bad Batch to help to ask for their help to rescue her parents. And
You also have the subplot of the other stormtrooper, who was not all stormtroopers.
Yeah, not all stormtroopers are as gung ho about the Order 66 good soldiers follow orders programming.
Wait, did you say stormtroopers or clone troopers?
I meant clone troopers.
I was gonna say.
Now, the thing about it is, from what I understand and from what they've already shown here in the Bad Batch, anyone who had a serious head injury had potential of having the chip damage.
Yep.
The chips were not very well done because, for one, the Kaminos did not like having anything implanted in their clothes.
Yeah, the Kaminoans weren't exactly a big fan of the chips.
That was the one thing they didn't truly do right. They were put in them, but it was not with the same precision and care that they like doing with the clothes.
Well, yeah, and anything that's not biologically part of the process is going to be susceptible to damage in that sort of respect. Well, granted, even the biological stuff is susceptible to damage, but it's essentially like a third party or like an aftermarket part has been installed. You've voided the warranty,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But yeah, but at the same time, we saw while he didn't really want to go along with the orders from the Empire, we saw there were several other clone
Take
troopers.
these orders and shove it.
Yeah, well, you saw there were several other clone troopers when he basically asked them to, basically said to them, "This isn't right." You saw there were a bunch of others that threw down their weapons also that didn't go along with it.
Because
So I don't know that it's necessarily head injury. I think it might just be the programming doesn't always take hold to the same extent on everybody. Maybe it has something to do with how
Possibly as
old.
well.
Maybe it has something to do with how old the clone is. Like the older clones maybe aren't as susceptible to it.
that is a possibility as well.
But yeah, we had another brief moment where we almost saw Bad Batch versus Crosshair's Elite Squad again. But no, we didn't get that actual showdown just yet.
But speaking of Crosshairs, there's a moment in the second to last episode of the first part of the two-parter season finale. Crosshairs reveals something about himself that I was just like, oh shit. So now when he gets to that part, I'm going to immediately look over at the two of you. I want to see y'all's reactions.
Yeah, because of the four of us here, Rode and I have not seen any of these last three episodes.
I cheated.
Yeah, Chris cheated. That's fine.
Yeah,
Chris.
life finds a way. I live in a basement solo most of the day, so I can watch whatever I want. And, well, Destiny.
Not necessarily me playing video games. It's more just I want to try to hold off and watch this stuff for the Bingecast, and because we're a few weeks behind on this. It's just Zeke and I did catch up with 12 and 13 with the intent of basically talking about it when we next got back on to it, and then it went another 3 weeks.
They just invited me over to
Let's be
round
honest.
it out. I was like, okay, cool. So I didn't watch the last three, and I was like, all right, I'm here, I'm ready, let's do this.
Well, let's be honest, Jay and Zeke are not a two-man show. We tend to feed off other people. That's what
Yeah,
people
we
watch.
Zeke and I really do need a third person there to bounce off of. Not that we aren't capable of doing a short cast now and then, like we did for Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss and the Gilded Guy animations, and our Bofuri rap cast.
In the Fire Force one, I think we did that one.
No, Fire Force, we had more people here besides just the two of us. But anyway.
Now imagine trying to do a whole season of a TV show by yourself, like I did.
Yeah.
It's your own fault. I wanted to join you, but you kept doing it at strange hours.
Yeah, whenever it
Because
was at work.
remember, Chris is like the only one. He is like the only one of us that doesn't have a set schedule from week to week.
Nope.
And even when he does know what his schedule is in advance, he gets called in because another person quit or called out.
Or in the
Damn,
case of
stop
last
being
night,
so damn reliable.
or in the case of last night, cut the fingertip off.
What the hell?
Was it did it fall in deep fire? Please tell me it fell.
No,
Oh.
I'll tell y'all afterwards.
When somebody says they want lady fingers, they don't mean.
The bad thing is that it was a woman who cut.
I was just trying to make a joke. Oh God, you just made it so much worse. Anyway, Bad Batch. But Rescue and Ryloth, the Syndulas managed to were broken out, so they can continue to manage the Twi'lek resistance. And Hera, we knew what she was going to get out okay because she ends up
Again.
captaining the Ghost by the time Rebels comes along.
Now I want a spin-off for Hera.
I kind of want to see that too, like in the time between like Bad Batch and Rebels, see her sort of coming up in the growing Rebel alliance.
Honestly, I would. There's so many characters I would love to see how they got to where they are when they finally get
In an animated form, because there are plenty of like comics and
Yeah.
sundry
I mean,
novels out there that
Hera's
cover some of
Hera's
this stuff.
story would be extremely good,
Mm-hmm.
and how she ends up meeting up with everyone else. Because I'm just like, I still can't see how this entire group gets together for
Mm-hmm.
Rebels. It just
But who knows?
There's a story there.
Season
We need
two of Bad Batch could show us more of that.
Maybe they put a Firefly.
Movie?
Oh, I'm sorry, Serenity in that case. Because, you know,
I'm a leaf on the wind.
Don't do that to me. It's too early. Too early.
Two were actually in the army together.
Yeah, Mal and Zoe.
Then the third one that like explosives.
He was just a merc that they made a better offer to. It's like, we'll give you your own bunk.
The engineer was basically turned on by engines,
and turned out to knew more about engines than the guy that they actually had.
Yeah.
And Wash just basically showed up one day. I was like, yeah, okay. And he had that weird mustache too,
and a Hawaiian shirt.
Oh, he's always had those.
That's how your Rebels team was formed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, again, God, Wash.
Sorry. Not sorry. Anyway, but then Infested, with the name of the episode, you knew there were going to be bugs. It's just the second you see a name title like that, it's going to be.
You gave away the whole thing.
Yeah,
they want to do a Starship Troopers show. Oh, so bad, so bad.
I would like to know more. I just set Road off again. Anyway, but Infested, we saw that Sid has some actual, somewhat redeeming qualities. She's still not a nice person, but, she needed the Batch's help and, wanted to do right by them. She's like, you kind of want me in charge around here and not this guy.
Which scared me.
Yes.
Because every time we get a character arc where they start redeeming themselves,
in the Star Wars universe, redemption equals death.
And so is also not having a helmet.
That's also true in the Starship Troopers universe.
And Gears of War universe.
He had his brain sucked out.
No, I'm thinking about the guy that died in live fire training. Took the helmet off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is what you don't do.
Yeah, don't take the helmet off in a live fire situation. But yeah, like redemption equals death in the Star Wars universe. We saw that with Vader. He finally got his he finally redeemed himself and turned back to the light, and then dead. We saw that with Ben Solo. He finally went through his redemption arc, turned back to the light, and dead.
Which is weird because when he died, I was like, wait a minute. I don't remember him getting okay, yeah, sure, he got stabbed at one point in time, and then Rey used the Force healing shit on him, but
he then gave his Force powers or whatever to help her, and gave too much.
He used all of his Force and basically life to heal her, and
use the Force. Become one with the Force.
She watched Bleach and then failed to pour the soul out in time.
Yep, sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, that makes about as much sense as the episode.
Yeah. But there have been a few other examples along the way. The only one I can really think of from animated fare that didn't go through that same thing was, what's his name from Rebels, Mutton Chops.
God.
From season 1, who was the main antagonist that was chasing them.
The guy who was voiced by Wolverine.
Yeah.
Trace McNeil?
No, the Imperial officer who
before the Inquisitors show up and just
the
the
guy who had the sideburns,
have serious mutton chops.
The mutton chops.
No, he's. I thought Zeke said the guy who voiced Wolverine.
I thought he was talking about someone on the crew, but now he's talking about now.
Those mutton chops were real.
Yeah, because he went through a redemption arc. He basically realized the Empire's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
They don't have cookies.
And then he started.
They had cookies, but they were raisin cookies.
Oh no! Even
the true sign of the dark side there.
And no milk.
Oh no!
Really? Are we really going that route?
Yes.
Oh wow! You guys are evil.
I mean, Luke Skywalker drank milk.
Blue milk.
Blue milk, and also the green milk on the planet in the sequels.
Bah.
He drank milk. That's a sign. That's a sign of. That's a sign of the light
And the worst
side.
part is that creature looked over at Ray like, whatever, he does this every day.
Yeah. It's like, I got a spare nipple.
You want some?
But yeah, so Sid, I'm somewhat concerned that she's gonna bite it at some point. And Zeke, actually, as we were watching it, again, taking it back to Firefly, he fears that Crosshair and the Empire, especially since after the events on Ryloth, Crosshair was basically told by Admiral Rampart, was given permission by Admiral Rampart to do whatever it takes to take the Bad Batch down. And in Serenity, what did the operative do to try to flush Mal and the crew out into the open?
My most
Down
favorite line.
everything. I'm like,
He
seriously.
burned like all of their safe
My
ports.
most favorite line ever from the whole any movie ever. If you hunt your quarry, leave no home for your quarry to go to. Well, something like that.
Yes.
If your quarry goes to ground, leave no ground for them to go to.
Best line.
It's a sign of how ruthless the operative was, and Crosshair is that ruthless. We have seen that time and again, especially with all of his "let's commit a war crime" moments.
Well, hey, it's just like, you know what? Because I have all the guns and you don't, I'm going to have some fun.
Yeah.
It's like, you see your escape ship right there? Ain't escaping no more.
So yeah, it's possible that Crosshair might just track them to Ord Mantell, because that's where Sid is located, I believe, and just burn down her bar and everyone in it, including Sid and those two guys.
The problem with that, though, is that I really think Sid would somehow be able to weasel her way out of it.
Well, no. If it weren't Crosshair, she might be able to weasel out of it, like turn informant on the Batch or whatever. But we're talking about Crosshair, who has shown that he is perfectly willing to execute any enemy of the Empire, and if you help out the Batch, he's going to see you as an enemy.
That's true.
Now, he might leave
You know
her.
who Crosshair actually reminds me of?
Who?
Agent Smith.
Oh God, yes.
Mr. Anderson.
He really, really reminds me of Agent Smith for some damn reason. I just keep expecting him to come out.
It's the smell, if there is such a thing.
I can't stand it. It permeates everywhere.
I feel saturated by it. But, yeah, I think Crosshair would probably keep her alive long enough for her to sort of call the Batch in for some reason to lay an ambush, and then as soon as the comms are cut, he'll shoot her just like the operative did to Mr. Universe.
I think she's gonna play some major part to make Omega kind of sink into a hole.
Well, look at the thumbnail on episode 14. Omega looks kind of mad.
Again,
she's not mad.
Again,
She's happy.
I'm looking forward to more of Omega, so
Yeah.
we can see how this leads up to the book of
Boba Fett. Honestly,
I'm
you
intrigued.
had just mentioned that before we started recording, that she is supposedly going to be in Book of Boba Fett. And while part of me wants to see that, at the same time, I'm like, I don't. Because I want there to be some mystery about this. That's one of the things I like about the Bad Batch, is that we are not always necessarily focusing on all these characters we know are going to make it through okay. Like, anytime we see Rex or Hera, we know they're going to make it out okay.
Right.
But everybody else, every member of the Batch, is open season.
That's what makes it so good. No prequels.
It's like we don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen to most of these characters.
It is the journey that makes it so good.
Yep. And yeah, having that kind of thing where it's like we know some of the destinations, but there is so much of a journey that we could take there, and not all of the passengers on that journey are going to make it.
My God, we're suddenly talking Suicide Squad.
But no, if we're going to talk Suicide Squad, that's a separate Bingecast. Because, that will turn into a Ramblecast real quick. And already we're going long into this thing. But
Well, it's 5 episodes. We're going to go long.
well, three episodes
Three.
episodes that we're watching, but we had to talk about the previous 2. But this episode we're covering 14, 15, and 16. 14 is titled War Mantle. After receiving a mysterious distress call, the batch tracks it to a secret facility. And then 15 and 16 are titled Return to Kamino and Kamino Lost, which is ominous. But they both have the same description. The Bad Batch find themselves in unexpected territory in this thrilling finale.
Wow, and considering I know the history of all of this...
Of Kamino? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm already not feeling very good about how
Well,
this
we knew
goes
that
down.
Rampart wants to move away from using the clones.
Right.
What
and-
better way to basically force them to go to conscripted soldiers and volunteers than to burn it all to the ground?
Yeah,
And especially because War Mantle, the title of the first episode we're binging tonight, we know is the name of whatever project that Rampart has been working on.
The worst part about it, I'm about to say things, I can't say things, and I'm like...
Don't say them, because Rode and I don't know.
That's the thing, like, my brain's like going through the process before I say anything, like, was this episode or that episode?
Oh,
Oh, it was that episode, I can't say anything now.
all I need to do is just hear certain words, and I will already know where they're going. And if
Certain
they're going that certain route, I'll be like, well played.
Yeah.
Well played.
It's like...
Assholic and mean and fucking hell, but
It's
well
so
played.
to use an example that I would understand. It's like with Sherlock Holmes' Game of Shadows, when Mycroft mentions that he's going to have to go to a peace talk at Reichenbach. As soon as he mentions Reichenbach, and it's just a sort of offhanded mention, you're just like, they're going to end up at Reichenbach, and Holmes and Moriarty are going to go over the falls.
There
You
go.
know it's going to happen the second that they get that they get name dropped.
Yep. And just to keep it in the Star Wars universe,
Yeah.
all I have to do is say. No, I'm not going to say it.
Okay. You don't want to go.
I don't want.
You don't want the PTSD.
I don't want to revisit this whole.
It'll trigger
scene
you?
all over again.
All right.
Because damn it, somebody had to make it out of there.
But so yeah, we've got 3 episodes to binge through, and then we'll move into the Rapcast portion of all of this. We'll presumably be able to talk about where we think this might lead to in the future, any potential tie-ins with Mandalorian or
if there is a
or
future.
Book of Boba Fett, or if there is a future. This is true. I don't know if they've announced season 2.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Wow.
So at least
I
at least
haven't-
1 or 2
I
members of the
literally-
batch are going to make it out.
I literally
make it out.
tried not to make. I tried to make sure I didn't spoil anything.
You know,
for
now
these
that I think
three,
about it,
so
I think I did see-
turned off my brain for.
Yeah, I've avoided the usual like reactor YouTube channels that I go to watch this sort of thing because it's like I haven't seen the episodes yet. And I think I did see a thing about a season 2 of Bad Batch, and I'm like, I kind of would prefer if they waited until at least a week after the last episode before you announce that sort of thing. But hey, I'm not the one in charge of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 3 episodes to binge. So we'll be back after the binge.
Hey, while we're watching this episode, you should go ahead and toss us a like and subscribe. If you want to reach out, do it via our social media on Facebook or Twitter at BTD_Bingecast. The Bored to Death Clan is part of the CKCC Radio podcast tribe, including J Bunny's Music Hub, the Race Nerd Podcast, Real Paranormal Talk, Ranking Tracks, Motivational Moves, Park Hopper 101, and The Nerd Table. Imperial credits may not be worth much, but remember to support CKCC Radio on Patreon. I have spoken.
And we're back. So, yeah, that was definitely... So, War Mantle, we get introduced to another reg that's different. And as soon as... we see him basically getting chased through a jungle or forest at least.
Yeah, by the dogs from Predators.
And
Shameless predator.
then the batch gets contacted by Rex, who's basically like, hey, I've got a buddy who sent me a distress call. I'm kind of busy at the moment. Could you go help him? And so
I got a guy. I know a guy who needs help.
basically, and as soon as he said that, I was like, okay, this is either Wolf or Gregor, and I was pretty sure it was going to be Wolf.
Turns look alike.
Turns out it was Gregor.
Not McGregor.
No. But when the batch gets there, and Hunter was at first against, Hunter and Tech were both kind of against heading for a rescue because they were running a job for Sid. If they don't do a job for Sid, they don't get paid, which means no food.
Which means that Omega and Wrecker can't enjoy those popcorn candy things that they eat.
Well, because they keep running up a tab on those.
Yeah.
But they do. But they go do the rescue mission anyway, and they find a big hidden Imperial base inside a mountain, where they are essentially using clones to train stormtroopers.
Yeah, and just so you know, it was only 500 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, that was the last 500 left
Of the clones.
all the clones.
Mm-hmm. And we don't know. We didn't know
You
that.
don't know that at the time.
At the time, but we're basically
actually that is the case.
And when you consider that the episode was titled War Mantle, which was the name of Admiral Rampart's project that he was told to implement by Tarkin, this is basically what War Mantle is. They're using the clones to train up the stormtroopers, and then once they've got enough stormtroopers,
execute the clones.
Basically. And Gregor, for reasons that aren't entirely clear, he's basically like, yeah, no, I'm out. And then they caught him. So,
yeah, but the actual War Mantle in canon was...
Is this old canon or new canon?
This is...
Star Wars Legends?
Legends canon?
But it still carries over into this.
Well,
because they're still following the same pattern.
Well, it's more that Filoni and Favreau are like, okay, we like this, and we like this, and we like this.
He's pulling
broad strokes.
Basically, all the legends that we actually wanted, he's finding a way to pull into
like
this.
Thrawn.
And it's working.
Thrawn was the biggest one.
Oh yeah.
Thrawn was just like the candy that everyone needed in their life.
Cannot wait to figure out what they're going to be doing with him in the future Star Wars projects. Oh my god.
He's got to be the big bad.
Yeah.
He must be the big bad.
He's the Thanos of the Star Wars universe. Come on.
In terms of War Mantle, the actual program was you would have a clone trooper training a set of 100. Once his training was done, the 100 would kill him, and they would each one of them would train 100. And this was how the mantle passed from the clones to the stormtroopers.
Well, clearly that didn't work out very well because the stormtroopers couldn't aim for shit.
Well, I mean, come on.
Well, it's more that they can't aim if they're shooting at main characters.
It's the basic thing.
No. Well, the thing about it is, the clones had a special basic ability bred into them, so their ability to shoot under any condition is a natural thing for them. You're talking about specifically designed perfectional bits in these against normal people.
Trying to take essentially inbred talent and trying to teach it.
Right. And again, the blasters rifles that they were using kick. All of these things kick.
Yeah. Basic recoil.
Yeah. And you're basically trying to
because you're shooting ionized gas, and that's still going to have a kick.
You're trying to fight against others who are using the same thing. Nobody really can shoot straight with these things. But they're effective.
So this was something that I kind of like was reading on like trivia and stuff like that for the episode. off of IMDb. And one of the things it says is the TK troopers are being trained by clone commandos in the Legends continuity. Republic Commando novels by Karen Travis, part of the commandos' backstory was that they had been trained from birth on Kamino by Mandalorians handpicked by Jango Fett.
Okay. So, it's still sort of the passing the mantle down.
Still passing the mantle down.
Now, remember what I had pointed out earlier? Another thing that I had read about the design of the stormtrooper outfits they were wearing?
Yeah, that they more resemble stormtrooper armor without quite yet being there.
Well, no, that they were based off the early concept art
that was the original artwork.
Yeah, done by Ralph McQuarrie back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the stormtrooper armor was supposed to look like before they were probably like, yeah, we can't make this.
Yeah.
This is
and went with something cheaper. Kind of like the Empire did.
It's really bad, too, because if you go back and you watch just the beginning of the first Star Wars film when the stormtroopers are actually running down the hallway after gunning down all the rebels, and you look at just the back leg armor that they have, you could see it opening and closing as they're running.
Yeah. They went with the cheaper design for the movie, which kind of reflects how the Empire works. They got rid of the Kaminoans and the clone troopers who were too expensive and went with conscripts and volunteers instead.
After watching the series Chernobyl, what was said at the very end fits no matter where.
What?
Why did this happen? Why else does it ever happen?
Why do our reactors have this instead of this? Because it's cheaper.
It's cheaper. Literally, that's the whole thing.
And
I mean, when it comes down to it, Tarkin actually states this outright. It is cheaper for us to just gather from all the areas that we now control than spend all this money on one clone and having to do it for multitudes. Mm-hmm. We can save all that money for other purposes. And that's the whole idea.
And you know what he's trying to save all that money for?
The Death Star.
Exactly.
But they forgot the budget for making sure there wasn't no small holes on the ship.
Well, no. That was a design flaw built into it by the designer on purpose.
By Galen Erso.
It's funny
because it on purpose.
Because they pointed that out in the Family Guy episode Blue Harvest, where there was just like, it's just there's a small exhaust port out there. He's like, wait, what? Is that supposed to be a design? He's like, what is that supposed to be? He's like, oh, nothing. We can just board it up.
Which is what they ended up doing, and or what was the intent with Death Star 2.
Yeah, but they still found a way.
Well, that's because Death Star 2 wasn't finished, but they had removed that exhaust port from the plans.
They put plywood there. It's fine.
We learned from our mistake. We will not have that port open.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that. It would help if you actually finished the damn project before boarding it.
It's like, we patched up this hole. Meanwhile, half the thing isn't built yet.
But were they? I'm trying to figure this out. So they were during the big shootout between the clones and the stormtroopers. After they had rescued Gregor, all their weapons were essentially on stun, while the stormtroopers were using
We're shooting to kill.
Oh, thank God! Someone else noticed that besides me.
Because I was just like,
I noticed it.
I was like, do they think that those are other clones?
Yes.
They were still under the impression they were fighting clones.
They did find out then when they pulled the helmet off of one that.
Right.
No, because
that was after they rescued. But yeah, it was after they rescued Gregor. They were still shooting to stun rather than to kill.
Well,
right.
Even after they realized there was a clone, they weren't clones. They were still not shooting to kill.
Yeah, they kept firing. They kept firing stuns all the way through, only because again, they were human beings. They were like, they don't know any better.
And and because the writing dictated that the Bad Batch needed to maintain the moral high ground.
Which they
by
did.
Not killing as much as possible.
They maintained the moral high ground. They were doing everything they could to not hurt anybody but to escape. Yeah. That was their purpose.
Trying to minimize casualties.
We are trying to escape. That's it. And they did so.
They were trying to get that rare...
Well, when you say they did so, the Batch and Gregor got away, but Hunter ended up taking a fall and ended up getting captured. And Crosshair shows up and it's just sort of like,
asshole.
Yeah, no. Hunter's more like asshole to Crosshair. Crosshair's like you're coming with me.
Anytime Crosshair just appears on the scene, all I hear is the
Asshole.
chanting of asshole.
Asshole, major asshole.
I'm surrounded by assholes.
Yes.
How many
yes,
assholes we got on this ship anyhow?
And the whole
He's
bridge
right
crew
there.
stands up.
Yo! But that led into the 2-part finale where they returned to Kamino.
Oh God, I couldn't take that.
Yeah, because Road, being more savvy on Legends continuity and some of the newer canon, it's just sort of like, no, I know what's happening. It's coming.
I knew exactly where they were going, and I did not like it.
Well, and when they arrive, when Hunter is brought to Kamino, we see that the Empire's basically stripping.
Yeah,
they're taking everything that isn't
Hunter
nailed down.
notices right off the bat. Okay,
where are all the regs?
Buried in here. Where is the regs? Where are the Kamino?
Where are the Kaminoans? Yeah.
And of course, Crosshair just blows it off. Don't even.
Crosshair's like,
that.
don't worry about that.
Right, and again, it's at this time I had already picked up what had already happened. This happened before they got there, but you actually see the beginnings of it when they lead the head scientist away.
Nalase, yeah.
And you see the 2 soldiers stay behind with the Prime Minister. They actually executed the Prime Minister on the spot.
I got that impression real quick.
All the comedians, they took them down to the lower levels and executed all.
Except for a few key scientists.
No, one.
Just
the only
Nalase?
scientist that got out, the only comedian that lives is her.
At least, according to the continuity that you're familiar with.
No, even in this.
We don't know that for certain. We know that she made it out okay. Until season 2 of Bad Batch comes out and shows there are a few other Kaminoans that survived, or until they say she's the only one left.
Based on what they did here, because even they said the only one we want is her.
Okay,
that's it.
Because she was like the chief scientist.
Right, she's the one who basically designed how everything went, and that's the only one they wanted. Mm-hmm. Everybody else was
surplus to requirements.
A medic I can use, a diplomat I cannot.
It was a scientist I can use, a politician I cannot. Yeah,
right, and that was the start. But he was already prepping to do so.
Yeah,
and the sad part about it is, if they had just a little bit more time, they would have at least gotten the young clones to safety. But they caught her before she could get them out to safety. And literally what actually ends up happening is all the clones, they had been sending clones back to Kamino for supposedly the operation of War Mantle. No, they had taken just the 500, and they were the ones doing the training elsewhere. Every one of the clones who came back for supposedly to help train were taken to the lower levels and gassed.
Well,
those canisters
in case the Nazi comparisons weren't enough.
Yeah, so those canisters you see them moving around, actually from the books, were the gas canisters they were leading down to the lower levels to gas the rest of the others.
Nova 6.
Now, could you imagine how much darker the last 2 episodes would have been if we saw the bodies?
Oh.
It
was already dark as it was.
I was really hoping that I would not see the bodies, because that would have just been like really breaking for me, because again, even reading it in the books was kind of saddening to me.
It's almost as if the Empire are
because,
horrible people.
I know, right?
I thought they were really nice to begin with.
Yeah.
To begin with, yeah, they'll smile at you while they're hiding the knife. Well, not knife, more like blaster.
Yeah.
Actually, not blaster, more like grenade that they shove into your pocket. Actually, less like grenade and more...
Detonator.
Yeah, thermal detonator. That works much better. Which is essentially grenade.
Bigger grenade. But
well, it depends on the thermal detonator.
The writing for this was superb, and I'm glad that they didn't go full on, but knowing exactly what was going on.
They hinted enough.
Anyone who's already a fan and
has read the books
and knows the old legends already saw exactly what was going on and was just sitting there like, this is not even... Because literally, they wiped out Kamino. The only thing that...
Wait, are we talking about the whole planet or just the facility?
No, the planet. All of them are gone. There's only her.
Well,
only her.
Remember, this is a Star Wars universe where there's usually only one city per planet, which is where everybody lives.
Again, yeah. Actually, that's like why, but whatever.
Because sci-fi writers have no sense of scale.
Yeah, but there's not that many. There's not that many of them anyway.
That's kind of like in Star Trek. Why is the Enterprise the only ship in the vicinity of something?
God,
because protagonists.
They're always right where the trouble is. I'm starting to think they caused the trouble just so they could do something.
If you guys have not read Red Shirts by John Scalzi, you need to. Have you read it, Rode?
No, I've heard about it. I really need to get around to
There's a point in the book where one of the Red Shirts basically points out that their ship encounters weird shit way more than any other ship in the galaxy or in the fleet, as well as a whole bunch of other things about how weird things are on the ship. But at any rate, back to the episode.
Yeah, these 3 episodes, especially the last 2, you talk about quality writing and foreshadowing.
It's almost like
implications, implying what has happened and what hasn't happened.
Yeah,
they did a absolutely phenomenal job on this.
It's kind of like they're continuing what worked so great with the last season of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of the overall tone.
Yeah. It's just sort of like, these are the dark days. Things are gonna get worse before they get better.
You are now in the process of transitioning from Republic to Empire, and it is a dark empire.
Oh yeah. No relation to the comic book Star Wars Dark Empire.
No, you don't want to go there yet.
No, not yet.
But I'm happy and very intrigued to see what we're going to get.
Yeah, we saw the destruction of Kamino especially toward the end of the first part of the finale and across the second half of the finale. But we also need to talk about the Batch and Crosshair, because Crosshair brings in Hunter and basically lays a trap for the rest of the Batch because he knows that they're coming.
But then he gives the bombshell of
no. It's just like, and Hunter's just like, you brought us back here to kill us. And Crosshair looks at him and just goes, if I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. And he's basically like, I'm offering you the choice. I'm offering you a chance here.
A choice that you didn't give me.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
And we're all still basically just like, this is just his chip talking and the programming they put into it. Then he drops the bombshell.
He had his chip removed a long time ago. He's just been an asshole this whole time.
Well, it was after they took him away during the first episode of the series. Because when they took him away, he still had the chip in there. Like, Tarkin is the one who had his programming turned all the way up. It was removed at some point after that. And if I had to guess, it was probably after he got his face half burned off.
It's like, get this thing out of my head while you're fixing my head.
And so he's like, hey, guys, can you please shut up?
I'm wondering if the head scientist had it removed thinking it would help.
That's true. Nala Se could have tried to remove it.
I'm under the impression she may have removed it to try and get him back with the Bad Batch. To
try to protect Omega. And instead, nope.
No.
And talking of Omega, we found out she's not a more recent clone at all. She was one of the first clones created.
Yeah.
Alongside Alpha.
Right.
You know,
The original, again, when they brought in Django's basic request is, I have a unmodified clone for myself.
don't accelerate the aging or anything. Just leave him alone.
Yeah, they paid up front. So the literal first clone is Boba Fett. The second clone
Was Omega.
And they kept Omega for themselves
As an experiment.
just to see how she develops.
And she was there when the batch was created.
Right.
She shows them Nala Se's secret lab.
Right. And
Where the mutations were engineered and
yeah,
enhanced.
and the batch were literally the 99th group that came out. And I'm sitting there, okay, that explains a lot. So, the first 98, they set forth and, okay, everything's looking good.
No, I don't think that...
These were the commanders. The first 98 are the commander groups. So
Except
Rex and others were in those groups somewhere.
Except I don't think... No, they weren't called Clone Force 90 or Clone Batch 99, whatever, because they were the 99th batch created. They were named for that defective clone, number 99, from Clone Wars. There was that like defective clone who was like working as a janitor or whatever.
But
he died, and
I thought he was the start of.
Maybe he came out of the 99th batch, hence why that was part of his designation. But their task force was named for him because they are also quote unquote defective.
Right.
Mind you, Crosshair no longer thinks of himself. You know, none of the batch really think of themselves as defective, but Crosshair went full on, just sort of like,
I'm perfect.
We're superior to them. We join me, Hunter, and together we can help the Empire rule.
Well, when you think about it, though, technically he actually is correct. They are a much more defined, able to perform their duties under any kind of extremes. Will not run from a battle.
Follow orders easily.
Good soldiers follow orders.
And will go through whatever it takes to complete said missions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, compare that to the Stormtroopers. God, the Stormtroopers. You gotta love them.
Do we gotta?
You have no choice. There's nothing else for you to follow.
I mean, remember the Clone Wars episode where the clones had to work alongside this big-ass four-armed Jedi who hated clones?
Oh, God. What was his name? It was a multi-part episode.
Yeah, I remember that one. And
The Battle on Umbra or something like that?
And it was a fierce battle, too. Like, clones were just getting killed left and right.
And he was just throwing them at him, like, keep going.
Nah, keep going.
We have reserves.
And the rest of them were like, excuse me. Yeah, I know this is my duty, but Jesus.
The thing that made a lot of people turn against that guy is
This
that
foobar, sir.
is that he explicitly referred to them all by their clone designation, not by the names that they preferred to use.
Right.
Whereas most other Jedi did
They
make a point of using the
Jedi
names.
actually cared for their clone troopers. And were legitimately
Cody and Rex and all that.
legitimately saddened when they lost them.
Or when
Lost any of them.
Or yeah, and especially that made the sting of the betrayal that much worse.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I mean,
But meanwhile, Crosshair is just sort of like, yeah, I don't have a chip in my head telling me to be an asshole. I am just an asshole.
am asshole.
And at that point, it's just sort of like,
No. I'm not asshole. I am Mr. Asshole.
That's Commander Asshole to you.
I am superior.
Yeah.
You will call me sir.
Nah, I'm just going to call you asshole.
Yeah.
But it was like at that moment, it's like prior to that, it's like the batch still held out some hope that they could get if they got Crosshair, they could take the chip out and then it'd be okay.
It'll be
And it's like at that moment when he basically said, "No, I don't. I had my chip removed a long time ago." You
They
could see
lost.
all of them were just like, "You motherfucker!"
Yeah, I
They
think
all immediately
that was-
turned against him.
That was the detachment act there, and that pretty much signaled the end of we're not coming back for you, Crosshair. We're not coming back for you.
Yeah, and Crosshair, he took out his elite squad.
Again, he's trying to
convince
them
the batch.
that yes, we are superior. We have a place in
the Empire.
In the Empire, but he fails to understand. No, you really don't have a place in the Empire.
And that's the thing that Hunter and the rest of the batch understand that Crosshair doesn't.
Right,
because Crosshair is not privy to what War Mantle is or what's going on.
He had no idea what War Mantle is, and again, when they were walking through, and Hunter notices this right off the bat because he knows what's going on with War Mantle. Meanwhile,
or at least he has a very deep suspicion.
Expression is, "Oh, they're around. They're doing their duty." And
nope.
When you sit back there, you're like, he doesn't know. They're actually
because
lower levels below you, dead.
Yeah, it's like he's not questioning things because a good soldier doesn't question what he's told.
Right.
And Omega,
he's been made a commander of his own elite squad. He's like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
The Empire is our thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they have gaslighted you so badly you don't even know you're on fire.
By this point, they're like in the training room that we saw them in at the beginning of the series, and Omega trying to set up a distraction or to help out the batch, thinking that they're still surrounded by the elite squad, sends up the training droids.
Overboard.
Yeah, and so Crosshair ends up having to help the batch take down all the droids before they all die.
Again, he was doing what he was doing because he was under the impression once you see
see things from my perspective, you'll
understand and you'll accept it. But the truth is, no, they actually have more information on what's going on.
They have no loyalty to the Empire.
You don't want to accept what they're saying.
Yeah, and it's like they stun him, and they're like, "We're still going to take him out of here. Maybe we can talk him back around." Sort of thing. I'm thinking to myself, that's a bad idea. This guy's basically sort of said that has basically made it clear he's loyal to the Empire. You bring him on your ship, you've basically got a snake in your midst. But before they can get off of Kamino,
the order is finally given.
You may fire when ready. And
by the way, speaking of which, you said
something about Rampart. Yes.
Yes. So you guys haven't figured out who he is yet.
No.
Go ahead.
You have to go back to A New Hope.
Which part?
Is he one of the guys around the table? It's just
wait. Is he the guy that Vader force choked?
Oh my god!
Finally got it.
Oh my god, that is freaking amazing.
Vader lost his cool during a staff meeting and choked a coworker.
That was him.
Yep. Okay, that makes it much more hilarious.
I'm waiting for somebody to figure this out,
but because the character was never named in the.
Yeah, he was never named, but that was him.
That's hilarious. But yeah, Rampart gives the order, and they.
But yeah, if you ever get a chance, go back to the movie and listen to him talk, and you'll realize. That's his voice. That's the actual guy.
The original actor?
That's the original actor voicing his character as a young person. That was something Dave Filoni went out of his way to actually add in. And I was like, yo.
Dave Filoni, I love you, man. That is awesome.
That's a cool-ass Easter egg.
But yeah, in the end of part 1 of the finale, the city is basically sinking into the sea with the Batch and Omega trapped inside, and part 2 is basically them just trying to escape from Rapture while it's falling apart, more or less.
And basically, still trying to give a sliver
of hope
for Crosshair, but Crosshair is so dead set on believing that the Empire is the way. Honestly, at this point, I'm like, if he actually even saw what War Mantle really was,
or found out that nope, all those clone troops are now dead.
Yeah, because he does not believe that the clone troopers are gone. He does not realize you are the only clone troopers walking around in the galaxy other than Rex.
That's where still flying the Imperial flag.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you are the only clone who wants to wear the Imperial colors. The ones who are still alive have ran for their lives.
You are the black sheep of the family.
Well, yeah, I mean, Rex is pretty much on his own at this point until
Gregor hooks back up with him.
Yeah, because I think it's him and who's the third clone?
Wolf.
From Rebels. Until those three hook up.
And you actually...
And you know what? I bet season 2 is going to bring Wolf.
They actually have them in the Return of the Jedi on Endor.
Yeah, I know.
Rex at the very least was there.
Yeah, they said all three were there.
No, because in Rebels, at the last season of Rebels, they gave Rex the outfit that his character is essentially wearing.
Yeah.
On Endor.
Yeah, and I'm like, that is way, way too cool how you pulled that off.
But yeah, and it's a dangerous little trip for everyone trying to make it out through a sunken building, through a glass tube underwater that's being attacked by the Loch Ness Monster, more or less.
Yeah.
And because remember what Qui-Gon said, there's always a bigger fish.
Always a bigger fish.
And
surely enough, there was big fish.
They managed to make it out of there. Crosshair, she saves Crosshair's life when they're both trapped in a flooding compartment.
And for such treatment, he actually saves her.
Well, saves the droid, which in the process saves her. And
still,
there's a lot of saving in this.
Yes, I still call it as he saves her.
Yeah,
the droid was just the byproduct of making sure that she got saved.
And it's like when they all make it to the Marauder, the rest of the batch is getting ready to leave on the ship, and Omega, meanwhile, is just looking at the smoldering wreckage
of
her home.
This is the only place she has known for all her life,
apart from the Marauder.
On the Marauder, and yeah, it stings.
And Crosshair is just standing apart from the rest of the group because it's Crosshair. None of the rest of the group wants anything to do with it.
I feel like this was like heavy foreshadowing for a future episode.
Probably.
I still say asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear the chanting of asshole.
Asshole. Asshole.
And of course, the rest of the team has treated him as such. Of course.
There was a great moment when Crosshair was basically trying to talk, was talking down at Wrecker, and Wrecker's getting angry about it. Tech calms down Wrecker, and then Crosshair looks at Tech and it's just like, I'm surprised you're defending me. It's just, and Tech turns around and is like, I'm not defending you.
Right.
Just because I understand.
I'm stating the quite obvious.
I was
defending you.
As he puts it, it's like, just because I understand you doesn't mean I agree with you.
Right.
And I'm like, that's my boy. I can relate to Tech there.
Tech just calls it as it technically is.
Yep. But when they're all basically left, they're getting ready to leave, Omega turns to Crosshair and thanks him for helping save AZ-9, the droid.
And his words are, consider us even.
Yeah, he's just sort of like, he is presenting it like it's a professional thing. Because that's more or less what he even said it to Hunter. It's just like, none of this was personal. Kind of thing. And it's like, motherfucker, that just makes it worse. Because these are your brothers.
God, you're an asshole.
Yeah, and
there's always that one kid.
Yep, and so they leave him there on that one like platform. The one thing left standing on Kamino.
And literally, that's also from the canon as well. Most people just believe Kamino is an in-hospital water world, when in truth it used to actually be the home of the Kaminoans, but they don't exist anymore.
Nope.
They're gone.
They are gone.
The only thing that is shown to actually even exist of their city is a solitary platform. And that was the platform that they actually landed and left on. And I was sitting there like,
oh no,
oh my god! As soon as I saw the platform, I was like, fuck. Are you serious?
But the final scene of the episode was an Imperial shuttle landing at a top secret facility somewhere, where Nala Se is basically introduced to an Imperial scientist who's like, I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, and the only thing I can think of, all right, who are you? Who's the clone? Oh wait, don't even ask. I know who the clones are.
Snoke.
Well, the Emperor.
Yeah, basically.
His clones. Snoke was one of the Emperor's bad clones. I'm under the impression he might have been one of the failed clones. Because the comedians purposely create a failed clone to know where the problems
are. Or
are.
they basically make a clone with no modifications and be like, okay, here are the flaws that we need to correct.
Yeah, here's the flaws that we need to correct. And they keep going until they finally get perfection.
And then they charge you out the nose for making it.
Hey,
or at least that's what they used to do. Now it's just, Nala Se is just like, you're going to do this or we're just going to kill you.
Yeah, it sucks to be good at what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. The curse of competence. Although in her case, because she's the last one left, they're not going to kill her, but you'd be amazed what you can live through.
Yeah, that damn black orb droid of theirs that does all the torturing.
Yeah.
He's
but
everywhere.
Yeah, so this is, it was a dark ending to the series. Again, that's sort of like we are entering into the dark days of the galaxy with the rise of the Empire.
And it was actually noted that yes, the beginning of the Empire was extremely dark, brutal days. They were spending the vast majority of the time consolidating power on different worlds
and establishing new forms of control, like the chain codes.
Also, they were still hunting down Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there was a lot of Jedi who did not have troops.
Mm-hmm.
They were not around troops who got away free.
And there were others that were able to escape from getting killed,
from their troops.
like Obi-Wan did.
Yeah, and that's when
Kanan.
Yeah, and that's when the really big push for bounty hunters started to come from. And this is what made, again, Jabba the Hutt the big man he was, because he literally invested in nothing but bounty hunters. And the other Hutts were like, no, we got gambling, we got
but
drugs, but Jabba
ran the bounty
hunters, and because he did that, he became the big cheese, because the Empire needed quality killers to go after.
And she was like, we're not going to commit our own resources to this, but
right, because we know our resources cannot take down these Jedi, but you seem to have a unique niche of group.
The only way that we could take it on the Jedi without sending in tons of troops is orbital bombardment.
Yeah.
And we would rather not cause that kind of collateral damage.
We're not trying to waste that much money. Here, we'll spend.
Then again, a sufficiently powerful Force user can rip a Star Destroyer out of orbit.
God damn you,
Starkiller! I was thinking of that not too long ago, because I was like, I don't know why, like.
That's like one of my favorite moments in the game.
No, because like I walk to work and I think of random crap on the way.
I know the feeling.
I do the same thing when I'm like driving long distance. Mm-hmm. I just get all kinds of random stuff going in. And one of the things that always comes back is, wait a minute, you could have had a Jedi on the level of Starkiller just go up there and send him in to go get Palpatine. Where was those guys? Because, believe it or not just Starkiller, but during that time, there was at least 8 Jedi who were actually feared among the Jedi because their power was just too freaking good.
Yes, but no, he said Jedi, not Force users.
Revan was a Jedi before he became a Sith.
Okay, but the Jedi still consider him a Jedi.
Revan is way before.
Yeah, that was old Republic. He's talking like in this time period.
But
of the batch
believe it or
and
not,
everything.
You're not too far off because one of the descendants of Revan is the lady in white. No, the lady in gray, or however they want to do it.
Gray or white.
Gray or white. But
the lady
in gray is actually the true strongest light user. She was stronger than anybody on the council.
Huh. Yeah, but Jedi try not to kill.
No, they don't like going to her because her answers are pretty much just straightforward. Okay, you have this problem. The easiest answer is, just get rid of him. And they're like, but that's not the moral way. No, it's the smart way.
Well, then it becomes a debate about the morals. Is it moral to kill one extremely dangerous and evil man to save billions, trillions of good people?
Which is literally what it always boiled down to with her. And
it's like, if you don't take him out, you are endangering countless other people.
And of course,
this is one of those debates that lots of people like to come around to. One of her favorite
students, even though it wasn't one of her direct students, but one of her favorite students, of course, is Mace Windu, who pretty much was more along her line.
It was just sort of like, this is evil.
I will listen, but when it comes time to do it, I'm going to do the exact straight way that needs to be done.
The rule is that evil dies.
Right. So there's her. And then, of course, the only light Jedi of that time who actually just said, you know what? There is a better way, and it embraces both, and literally go on to become the first actual great Jedi of this generation, and would only be the only one. And they actually threw him out of the council.
Qui-Gon.
Bingo. Qui-Gon was great Jedi. And he was tossed out.
Yeah. Because
on his robe. But at the same time, Qui-Gon had literally figured out that you don't attain the true balance until you realize you can't have light without the darkness. And
isn't that what the Greys stand for?
Yeah, they embrace both sides of power. Believe it or not, Yoda actually was right there at Grey. Hence why he was able to learn. The only Grey Jedi eventually begin to get the power of
living on through the Force.
Through
balance.
Yeah, they find the true balance. And Vader, of course, got it because he started off light,
went to the dark, and then came
back into a balance. And he died in balance, finally. Hence why he was able to come back.
Same with
Qui-Gon was always in balance.
And then he taught Yoda, who taught Obi-Wan.
No, actually Obi-Wan went to learn from Qui-Gon.
Well,
but Yoda told him where to go.
Yeah.
After he had been taught. There was...
And then obviously Obi-Wan / Yoda, and Yoda, through their Force Ghost things, taught Luke.
Right. And Luke was under the assumption that he was full light side, but Luke was a little bit more into the gray.
Well, yeah, but he had no reason to suspect anything other than what he was taught was the light.
He didn't know otherwise. Ahsoka naturally is gray. She's a natural gray. And believe it or not, one of the ways that you know that you're gray actually use dark side powers.
Yep.
And,
So Ahsoka could use Force Lightning if she wants.
Yeah, she could actually use Force Lightning if she actually tried to.
And we've seen
But
Luke,
you have to learn how to use it.
and we've seen Luke use the Force choke maneuver.
Yeah.
On those.
Force Lightning is something you have to be taught. You don't naturally have it.
Wait, what did Luke use it on?
On the guards in Jabba's palace.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he briefly used it just to get them to back away from him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've seen that he has Force. He can still crush things with the Force when he crushed that Dark Trooper like a beer can. At the end of
that was a
season 2 of Mando.
droid though. He was just like, oh,
It was a
It's
droid
still Force
that
crush.
was that
Force-
is immune
Force
to
crush.
blasters.
Force Crush is literally darkest you can get. That's
Yeah.
the actual dark power.
And plus, these are droids that have been shown to be resistant to blaster fire, to missiles, to fire. Only thing that works on them is lightsabers and Beskar.
like one of the things.
And he crushed it like a beer can.
Because
see, the light side of Force Crush is Force Push. You just push them away.
Because one of the things that I remember hearing, supposedly the reason why General Grievous had his breathing problems was because Obi-Wan used Force Crush on him.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, in the Clone Wars minis, the shorter animations that preceded.
Yeah.
In the final episode of it.
That's where his labored breathing came from.
Yeah, it was literally Grievous and his forces attacking Coruscant to abduct Palpatine.
Yeah.
And Mace Windu is fighting off the droids, sees Grievous and just crushes like the
Because all it is
core
a sack holding his organs. That's all that's left is the organs, his eyes, and brain.
Yeah, because I remember in Episode 3, that's what Obi-Wan shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, was the organ sack.
So uncivilized.
But yeah, that Force Crush is basically Grievous actually could go from body to body. They would just take his.
We saw that in an episode of Clone Wars.
Into a new thing, and that's literally where they got the idea for Vader. But what had happened is because it was crushed, they couldn't get it open anymore.
Well, there also wasn't a whole lot of time between when it got crushed and when he got taken down by Obi-Wan.
Right.
Because he faced the Jedi above Coruscant and then escaped. And then basically went to the planet that he was on. He didn't have a chance to go back to his hideout, to his lair, to basically switch out the parts.
No, basically,
he didn't have time.
From what they said is that he was going to try and do it on his. He had the spare body on his ship.
Oh, okay.
And he was trying to do it, but they couldn't get the casing open, so he was stuck. But still,
Yeah.
I love
the new Star Wars.
Grievous is actually way more dangerous than they let on about.
Oh yeah, if you watch him in the Clone Wars minis stuff,
he was nightmarish.
Oh yeah, the first appearance of him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, no.
And there were stories going around about him already. This guy is going around collecting
lightsabers,
dead Jedi's lightsabers and using it on others, and everyone like.
It's like when he pulled out the two lightsabers. I'm like, okay, that's pretty badass. And
then
his arms suddenly split, and I'm like, oh fuck.
We're in a game that we just can't play now.
Yep. But Bad Batch, good first season. Cannot wait to see where season 2 is going to go.
So the Bad Batch characters, in terms of the Batch themselves, are these original characters?
Yes.
For the series, or were they in any of the?
They were introduced in back in season 7 of Clone Wars.
Yeah,
that
but
was the first appearance. But no, they don't have any other appearances in the canon.
There's no more appearances before.
They had not appeared in the canon before this.
The first special clone, of course, was Rex. That they attached to Return of the Jedi. Then they got Wolf and Gregor to add to it. So those three would be explained in Return of the Jedi. The Bad Batch were always hinted at what would happen if there were some messed up clones, and they were like, you know what, that's kind of a good idea. Let's Try to run with something like
yeah,
that.
and they made...
And that's where Bad Batch design came from. And then they just decided, all right, we need to fine-tune this.
Well, it's like the Kaminoans like to make clones just exactly like the original. What happens if they tweak the settings a bit?
Yeah.
Boom.
And
there you go.
Plus, they wanted to explain how Boba Fett came out as just flawless as he is. Because believe it or not, Boba Fett and Omega are flawless. They can learn anything and excel.
Yeah, we've seen that with Omega before. So she
picks up anything and literally
like
is
her
perfect.
taking that first shot at Crosshair and scope sniping him.
Yeah. And quick scope them at that.
It reminded him of in a Firefly.
River Tam.
Yeah. She
No power in the verse can stop me.
Yeah, she is the River Tam of Star
Well,
Wars
and
now.
we've seen other things like it takes her some time to figure out how to use the bow, but it's like
She's a
she
dead shot.
sees Sid do it, and then the next time she has to do it,
Dead shot.
she gets a dead shot, and then it's later that same episode she finally starts.
Yeah.
And we saw it briefly in War Mantle when she sees Hunter twirling his knife around, she looks at the little like screwdriver she had, and she's not doing it immediately, but she's like figuring it out.
She's picking it up already, and it's like, yeah, that's Boba.
It reminds me of there was a character in Heroes, a girl who basically anything she saw, she could replicate.
Yeah, basically it's Taskmaster.
Well,
Taskmaster in the Star Wars universe.
but the character in Heroes, like she, early in the episode where they introduce her, she sees like a cooking show where the presenter cuts a tomato to make like a rose, and later when she's at her job at some fast food place, she's just chatting with one of her coworkers, and without even thinking or even looking at it, she has cut a tomato into a rose. And she like looks at the TV and sees like WWE SmackDown, sees Rey Mysterio do the 619, and then she stops like a robber by literally doing the 619 to him. And then she's like helped out. I think it was by Noah Bennett. He gives her like an iPod loaded with like martial arts stuff and all sorts of other like things that she could pick up that are just physical based, not really like power based. You know. I think Omega has some element of that to her. You know, it's just like it. She may not get it first go, but she learns very quickly. So, but that I think is going to conclude the Mandocast until December when Book of Boba Fett rolls around.
So can't wait.
Oh,
'cause I want to know exactly. Boba Fett has taken over
Jabba's
the bounty
Syndicate.
hunters.
No,
he's got the bounty hunters.
Well, except the bounty hunters are sort of run by
Well, there's different groups, but he has Jabba's now.
Yeah, but Jabba has been dead for a while, and it's the Bounty Hunters Guild, I think, is basically broke away during that. There's no indication that Bib Fortuna, fat ass that he became, was really had the same level of influence and power that Boba did.
I'm wondering exactly how it is. Because, again, if Bib Fortuna still holds, like, the best of the hunters...
When he clearly doesn't, because he doesn't have Mando.
Yeah. Mando was just, like...
On a different level.
Yeah, and plus he was sticking around his... Mando was sticking around with the Mandalorians.
With the covert on...
Who were making sure no one
on
knew
Navarro.
Right. So,
yeah, that's the main reason he stuck around there.
Yeah,
and I want to find out what happened to the rest of the covert. Some of them, probably died, but some of them probably, that some of them made it out. And the Armorer, I want to know what's going on, what happened to her.
So I actually got a response from Emily Swallow on Facebook about that.
Oh,
and I asked her, I said, "Is the Armorer coming back?" She says, "I honestly have no idea."
She could be under an NDA for all we know.
Probably.
Because Mandalorian is like the thing next to Marvel that, like any Star Wars project is like with Marvel. Disney is like, you talk about this you're gone.
Yeah, so
And you talk about this or you complain about your pay, you're gone.
You sue us, you're gone.
If you have unregistered license plate, you are gone.
You do not cross the House of Mouse.
You are gone.
I'm pacing back and forth.
But yeah, all the new Star Wars properties coming down the pipeline. I'm so excited for.
The ones I'm dead centered on. I must have Obi-Wan,
Ahsoka, yep,
and
Book of Boba.
What was the
Rangers of the New Republic?
No, not that one.
The Acolyte?
That one.
I'm intrigued.
I was like, it was the one about Palpatine. What was it? Or that's rumored to be about Palpatine.
Right.
The Acolyte. Yeah.
How he got all his
how he rose to power.
And basically betrayed his Sith Lord Master.
Well,
Darth
whoever
Plagueis
takes
the
on the
Wise.
role is going to have to meet it with Ian McDiarmid on how to properly talk like him.
Well, it depends on where in the timeline it is. It could be Palpatine before he was Palpatine, before he really developed into the...
Well, apparently from the way he's described it, he got his power. He killed his master when he was young, and he just kept growing in power over time. But he killed his apparent master like when he was in his teenage years. I'm like
Darth
intrigued
Plagueis.
to figure out exactly how that went down.
Oh yeah.
Because apparently there's two sides of the story that generally gets thrown around in the internet. Number one, he was naturally gifted and managed to face down his master. Of course, then there's the rest of us who are like, he waited until that man had his back turned and was asleep and killed him in his sleep.
Because that's the kind of person that Palpatine is.
That's how
Palpatine is not going to face somebody at full power.
Not face you on full power
Unless he has several advantages at his disposal.
Right. He is going to backstab and backstab and backstab. He is not going to face you full on front.
And if he is going to face you full on front, you are fucked. Just ask the Jedi that tried to arrest him. He had the drop on
Mace, who I'm still like amazed that it is.
Well, but that's because it's Mace fucking Windu.
Yeah, I just love the fact that yes, we're going to go ahead and say it. Mace survived. It's canon, and I'm like,
I could buy it simply because it's Mace.
But at the same time, I'm like, so are you guys actually going along with this web series of Vader where he has to go back to Naboo and he has to hunt down Mace Windu in the tunnels, and it's just not going very well?
Why would Mace be on Naboo? He was on Coruscant.
No, he
escapes and goes to Naboo.
to go to Naboo. And I have to admit, so far they've only filmed 2 portions of it.
Yeah. And
apparently Disney got hold of Wind, and they saw it and they were like,
"Come
finish this story.
Come work for us."
No, they told him finish this story.
I am surprised.
We want to see exactly how you finish it. And
unless it was Filoni and Favreau who saw it and were like, "We're gonna keep this on the down low. Finish the story."
I'm pretty sure Filoni is notorious. He sits on the web and just goes along with everything that everybody else does. So I'm pretty sure. I know he's seen it.
Oh.
And the thing about it is, it's extremely well done. It's early. Vader getting used to the fact that he's now Vader.
That he's a triple amputee.
And literally, Palpatine is fucking with him like, if you were really strong like you were when you were Anakin, you would attack me from behind. What's wrong? Are you a little pussy now?
Yeah.
Are you weak?
All that emotional abuse that kept him in line.
I mean, he's literally just fucking with him hardcore to see if he'll just cut it straight. And he's like, "No,
please don't hit me again."
And that is why you're weak. Well, I got something to strengthen you up. I want you to go back to Naboo. Somebody there that I want you to hunt down. This will put some fire in your bones.
Anakin's like, am I going to get to go kill Jar Jar?
He gets there and they're like, yeah, he's down there. The troops are like, you can tell the troops are like, nah, we are not going down in those tunnels. He's been fucking us up left and right. Come to find out,
any of our troops that go into that tunnel dies.
Come out and it was like, oh fuck, Mason's down there.
Yep.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So everyone's been waiting for part 3. Part 3 supposedly coming out.
I gotta scope this out then.
Later. Actually, part 3 should be next month.
Cool.
Yeah.
September 2021.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, we're starting to come up on the hour and a half mark here, so we should probably go ahead and wrap this up. Almost went into a ramble mode, but anytime you show up, it tends to go a bit longer.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. I have zero problems.
You gotta understand, I am sci-fi.
You are a
fanatic.
nerd. You are a nerd.
See, we need to do a Battlestar Galactica cast.
Don't do that. I will take that shit over. You guys will not have a word in that. That will be.
We barely get a word in edgewise right now as it is.
Yeah, I will sit there and be like, look, I'm going to take you back to the day one of how this started. This is how it goes.
Classic or
Both.
remake?
Both.
Okay.
There is nothing about either one of those that I can't just go into fucking.
Because
I found the comic book. I actually have.
Did you know that George Lucas actually thought they were ripping him off with Battlestar Galactica because of like the similarities between Battlestar and Star Wars?
Yeah.
So he actually sued them.
Yeah. And once they went to court and the judge actually had to went there and he literally went through both of them and he was like, there's not enough to hold up in court for this lawsuit to go through. So there was no judgment on it.
It's just like judges like, you take this to court, it's not going to necessarily go very well for you.
Yeah. They're not going to find in your favor for it because, truth be told, there's similarities, but that's where it ends.
Yeah.
It's just we got two different storylines.
And furthermore, it's just like George Lucas trying to claim that something somebody else has made is too similar to what he has made. It's just like, motherfucker.
Well, I mean,
I'm sure the makers of Dam Busters would like to have a word with you.
God, let's not even go there with that one. But I mean,
it's just like, am I wrong?
At the time, you gotta remember, literally, when Star Wars came out, you had Star Wars, you had Dam Busters, and you had Battlestar Galactica. Literally in a 3-month period that no one knew about either one of the other three at the same time until they suddenly appeared on the scope, and it's like, you were doing this? You were doing this?
It's like the Raid and Dread.
I was just thinking that.
Everyone's like, oh, you were doing
because they were both being made about the same time. Dread got delayed longer because of all the special effects. And then people were like, you just made the Raid, but you stuck Dread in it. But it's still cool. It's all right. But it's like, no, they were both being made
at the same time. It's just one came out before the other. One had a faster production period than the
because
other
they
one.
didn't have to do all the CG effects.
Right, there was no CG for,
and not nearly as much slow-mo effect.
God,
I mean, the slow-mo effect was awesome.
Slow-mo effect was beautiful.
Gavin Free did a fantastic job on all that.
Oh God!
Well,
I can't go into Dread. No, I will not go into Dread because that was just a love affair with the comic book that they showed on the screen.
Well, I know that George Lucas, because this is something that I had heard about, and I did bring this up in a past video recording that we did, was that George, originally what he wanted to do was he wanted to do Flash Gordon, because he loved the old Flash Gordon serials back in the I think the 40s or 50s, the old black and white ones, because if you look at the way those started in terms of like it had the text crawl like what Star Wars had, and apparently like supposedly George couldn't get the rights to do Flash Gordon, so he just
Flash Gordon was not willing to give up the rights to anybody for it at that time.
Yeah,
And it's kind of a good thing, but also a sad thing because most of the consensus is George Lucas would have done a phenomenal Flash Gordon, but thanks to the fact that he couldn't get it, we got Star Wars.
And the rest, as they say, is history. But yeah,
they are, believe it or not, they actually are doing Flash Gordon. And
there you go.
They are going by old Flash Gordon canon.
They need
got
to get
all the characters that you remember from the movie, but they're definitely not camping it.
Is Brian Blessed going to be in it?
God damn it.
is Brian May doing the soundtrack.
Oh, God.
Gordon's alive!
Dive!
But I think we need to go ahead and wrap this up. But
yeah, we might be here all night.
Yeah, we could be here all night just talking about this, and I'm sure Zeke would like to actually be able to get to bed. He's half awake as it is. Well, probably
for the important parts, like signing off for the night.
Yeah, but that's going to go ahead and wrap up the Mandocast until December. Book of Boba Fett is what we're all looking forward to, and all the other new Star Wars projects coming down the line. Expect to hear more of Rode in the future.
Especially when Book of Boba Fett comes out.
Yes, I'm sure he's going to
be here.
Yeah. And you'll be joining us on other Bingecast projects very, very, very shortly.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that. But that is going to wrap up this edition of the Mandocast. So, for Zeke and Chris and Rode, I am Jay.
Good night, America.
And we will see you back on the Mandocast come December.
I'm going to bed!
Thanks for listening to Abort to Death Mandocast. Be sure to check out all the Star Wars content on Disney Plus and give us a like and subscribe. This is the way.